Welcome back to the safety. Or wait, what are we called? Lights and Sirens.
The Lights and Sirens podcast. Dude, don't plug another podcast.
I always forget. I forget where I am. I'm so dissociated.
Yeah. Says the guy that drove past the exit and was 30 minutes late.
Yeah. That's it. Yeah. It was raining heavy.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Well, see, because I'm a safe driver, I pulled off the interstate and I texted you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's exactly what happened.
Yeah. I wasn't texting and driving in the torrential downpour.
Exactly.
Screaming at other drivers like, why do you have your fucking your flashers on?
Yeah. But yeah, so super special guest. This is going to be I know it's going to be a stigmatized episode, but this is Happy 420. We're going to push this back a day, drop it on Saturday. So it's our Happy 420 day episode.
Yay.
But, you know, obviously before starting EMS and fire, you know, I'm not saying that I partook in the devil's lettuce.
Dude, I was a good kid.
But I did, because that's how everyone gets through high school. And there's been a lot of innovations over the years, and understanding the power of the entire plant itself and the progression of CBD. CBD works great. I love CBD.
CBD's.
No. This is a family show.
What? That was a question.
No. But we have a super special guest. Do you care if we say your name?
Oh yeah, no, let it out. It's not private. Yeah, John Vogt.
I know that we have a lot of people on there like, don't put our name.
No,
don't
I can't say where I work.
So
I've already been through that. But
no. Yeah. So have we. They found out by our second episode. They were like, "Hey guys, please don't talk about us. We want zero association with you." I'm like, it's
that's not
same. Likewise.
Yeah. If I'm not being paid, I'm not talking about you.
Yeah, exactly. But we have it's a really cool company. John from Rescue One CBD. It's a firefighter owned. I think what's really cool about the company itself is the fact that the strict testing to comply within agencies. Obviously, getting random over the counter CBD products, gas station CBD. It's 100% THC for sure.
Yeah, those are the good ones.
You're gonna don't scuff the engine or the rescue, or hopefully you don't get hit with a random drug test, because you'll pop positive. But that's the one cool thing about this is it is like guaranteed to have 0% THC.
That's right.
So we're in the clear.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So John, thank you for coming on. I hope that it doesn't stigmatize being a 420 episode. Stigmatize what you do. But I thought it'd be a really cool episode to have you on and kind of explain the company and the product and everything like that for I think 3 people that listen to us. But I'm going to pay for some advertising so more people can listen, because people think we're idiots and don't like listening. But
people accurately assess that we are idiots.
like, oh, they're dumb.
Yeah.
No, thank you for having me on, man. So yeah, I think you kind of teed it up perfectly. There's a gas station CBD out there, and the industry is pretty much the Wild West. We started 3 years ago after a lot of research, and I actually worked for another CBD company when I first started this whole route. We had nothing to do with the fire service, and I started my own CBD brand after I was done working for them, and that CBD brand had nothing to do with firefighters, but I did learn how the process is done, how the product gets made, and I started to learn how manufacturing worked, and I got a grasp of how you could make this safe for the job in theory. And the theory is, if you can refine CBD into an isolate in its purest form, then you can make it so that you won't fail a drug test, because THC is the problem for failing drug tests, not CBD. but we also know that there's that's really hard to do. And to the level of when you said 0% THC, that's not enough. It's got to be 0.000. So if you want to make it to that level, it's really hard to do. And so we had to, that was the work, was trying to find that magic to get it down to that level. And we've been in business for 3 years, and we've had thousands of firefighters use our products with 0 failed drug tests. So we're super proud of that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
cool.
Yeah. Now, the one thing I know that we've talked to other people about it and stuff like that, Delta 8, the differentiation between that, because I can speak personally. I have taken I've taken Delta 8 before, and magically, it was actually not our fault. An old vintage Suburban came over on our lane and blasted their mirror off. So then, of course, we have to go drug test and do all the stuff. Comes back, and what's his name? Dr. Falafel, whatever his name is, calls me and says, "Hey, everything looks good." I'm like, yeah, no, I'm good. He's like, "But you have THC metabolites in your system." I'm like, "Oh, well, that sucks." He's like, "Do you take CBD products?" I'm like, "Yes. I mean, I've taken like Delta 8 products and things like that." And he's like, "Yeah, that that'll trigger, THC metabolites, everything like that." And so yeah, I learned the hard way on the difference.
Yeah, that does happen to a lot of people, and I just did a little post the other day about this, and because Delta 8 is made from hemp, it's like this big legal loophole. Mm-hmm. So,
yeah,
Delta 8 is not a naturally occurring cannabinoid. It has to be synthesized with acid from either Delta 9 or from CBD. So, the most prevalent compound in hemp is CBD. So hemp is so cheap to grow, and it's so easy to grow if you're not if you don't care about like the THC content. So you could grow this stuff per pound, per acre, I should say, cheaper than and it's more valuable than orange crops, like in Florida where I'm from. There was a big push in like 2019, 2018 to start growing hemp everywhere instead of oranges. And these guys would take this stuff and they would have extra. They saw that Delta 9 is basically regulated to the point where it's either medicinal or you have to get it through a dispensary. And then they said, well, we can make Delta 8, which is, they've estimated it's like 50% of the potency of Delta 9, If Bud Light wasn't trademarked, that'd be like perfect. You know what I'm saying? That'd be just so perfect. But it's really easy to get, and you can get it in a gas station. In theory, you could buy it in Target if you wanted to. There's no restriction on it. So it's really just this loophole that all the laws say Delta 9 is illegal. Then they come out with Delta 8. And there's also Delta 10, which is in the same thing.
And Delta 10.
There's HHC. There's THCV. All of these cause, psychotropic effects and have pain relief and things like that. And there's probably some medicinal benefit to them to some extent if they're similar to THC. But the problem with all of them is they produce the same metabolites that THC does. So, I mean, what your situation was, is going to happen to a lot of people. They take it because it's made from hemp and they think it's legal. And and they're like, well, technically it's not Delta 9. Yeah, but it does the prevalent metabolite THC, COOH, and then 11 more hydroxy THC. Those are the two that come out. And once they attach to fat cells, man. Once you smoke it or ingest it, THC as a parent molecule only stays in your blood and saliva and urine for like 12, 24 hours. After that, it's all metabolites, and that shit stays in there for like 30 days plus. So it's just that's why it's so hard, and we can't treat it like alcohol yet, because there's no definitive level to say you use THC on this day, or even Delta 8 on this day, on day one, and by this hour you should be clear. It's not like that. It stays in for so long, it makes it really tricky.
Yeah. It's I learned the kind of the hard way, how you're talking about how Delta 8 isn't regulated. I was working with a couple of buddies that were right when Delta 8, it's probably about 4 years ago now, right when Delta 8 was kind of becoming not mainstream, but like more popular. They were going to start, or they did start, a Delta 8 company, and I was working with them on the manufacturing process, and it was a company down in Miami that was doing all the manufacturing for us, and they sent us up some, and it's even the manufacturing process, even I mean, everything that's involved in the whole making of that Delta 8 product that we originally got, because it's right at the beginning.
Yeah.
It was very much a in your mother's basement type setup.
Yeah.
Being that it's not regulated, there's no oversight to it. So the big problem that we had when we first got our samples and first got our first orders in, I mean, it's all made by, it was just made, it's super crappy because there's no oversight to the manufacturing of it.
Right.
I remember I took one gummy one time and I'm like, this did nothing. And then I took another gummy and there probably had to be 20, 30 milligrams in it. And I was just completely zooted. I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, it was unreal. I'm like, I haven't been this disassociated in quite a long time. I'm like, and it would just go back and forth. And then, and I don't know, how it's changed and things like that, but with the gummies, and we still run into it now. The loose gel gummies, mm-hmm. People are storing them in warmer areas, warmer climates, in the sun and things like that, and they start melting.
Yep.
And then you start getting now all of the concentration in that gummy that says, oh, this is a 10 milligram gummy. Right. And you pull it up and it's got, all the crystallization on it at the bottom of it. It's, friggin' dripping in it. And, we're picking up people now that are like, oh, I just took a gummy. And I'm looking at the gummy, and you can just tell that everything's melted, and they're just completely flabbergasted, just gone. Yeah. And it's one of those things like, it's such a weird market right now, or at least back then when I first was kind of dabbling in it, that I'm like, I don't feel comfortable making this stuff. I'm like, and especially after we started making, I'm like, oh, you're still going to pop for weed. Like, you're still going to, all of that stuff, it's still going to show up. So I was like, there's no real benefit that I'm going to risk myself over for selling gas station Delta 8 gummies to people. Like, it's not a thing, but obviously, stuff has improved over the years.
It has, but it's also still, there's a lot of places that want to cut corners because it's unregulated, and that's part of the problem. So you could get a lot of really reliable CBD out there, and I love to tout other brands that are extremely reliable. Charlotte's Web is the biggest one, and everybody knows them, and they have immense quality control. Medterra is also probably my next favorite. I love those two brands. But and this was part of the reason that I started, is that, when I had really bad foot surgery. I had an ankle fusion on my left ankle, and I had to get my Achilles lengthened by cutting my gastroc muscle, my calf. So gnarly surgery, and completely rebuilt my foot. So it took a long time to stop taking Oxy. I was taking Oxy every day for weeks. I was 6 weeks. 6 weeks-ish, maybe 8 weeks.
That's rough.
And,
Yeah.
I didn't feel like I needed it or anything like that. Towards the end, I was a little bit dependent to sleep and stuff like that. But when I stopped taking them, the first 2 days, I barely slept at all. I would sleep for an hour.
Yep.
Then I'd be awake for 8 or 9. I'd sleep for an hour. I'd be awake for 8 or 9. And that went for a couple of days. But man, my sleep was so wrecked for weeks after. And I was like, hey, I thought withdrawals were like 2 days. Well, what they don't tell you is what happens with pain medicine and your REM sleep, especially coming off of a dependency of them. And it's very similar to what alcohol does, if you're a true alcoholic. And so I started looking around for sleep aids. And like on the fire department, they'd prescribe me Xanax in a heartbeat, and I'm like, I can't take this. I'm on shift. And they're like, oh, yeah, you can. I'm like, hey, hold on a second. Why can't I use any of these natural remedies like cannabis? And they're like, well, the logic is, well, we're not going to know if you took it and you're high right now. I'm like, it's the same thing with benzos or any sleep medication.
Yeah.
And kind of made me go down a rabbit hole. And I'm glad I did, because I discovered CBD. But when I started looking around at companies, they were all, nobody wanted to guarantee that you'd pass a drug test.
Yep.
And I get why, because lawyers tell you not to use that language. And but nobody would even guarantee that you could make it with 0% THC. So like Charlotte's Web would say, hey, we can guarantee that you have 0.2% THC in there. 0.02% THC in there. That's the lowest we can get it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I learned that it's not that that's the lowest they can get it. That's the lowest that they're willing to pay to get it. And it's not worth their time because the rest of the country doesn't really care about getting small amounts of THC in their system because most people aren't randomly drug tested like we are. So it led me down this path, and I was like, okay, well, let's do that. And it's been awesome because what it did for my sleep changed how I sleep. And I'm a firm believer in like trying to do all the stuff ahead of time instead of just running to CBD or sleep medication. If your sleep is fucked up, then you should try to fix all the underlying stuff. But if you work a job where you are up after midnight, I'm sorry, but you don't have that luxury. Like, yeah, I'd love to get 8 hours regularly and be on a great schedule. Like, sure. Let's throw that away because that's never going to happen again for my career. So there's a whole bunch of science. I try to like dial it back when I'm talking about the nerdy stuff like that. I don't know the audience. And so I try to like feather it in here and there, but it's pretty amazing what CBD does to the hormones in your brain and body that regulate sleep. And it works with first responders especially well for a reason, because we throw our hormones out of balance when we're up after midnight, especially melatonin and cortisol. And a lot of the sleep wake cycle is based off of this one part of your brain. The hormones that regulate that clock, that master clock of your brain, are cannabinoids, which is crazy to me. And when I discovered that, I found a ton more research that basically talked about how this area of your brain, the suprachiasmatic nucleus, the SCN's master clock, regulates all of this sleep-wake cycle, regulates your circadian rhythm, and the hormone that affects it the most, that basically sets it, is a cannabinoid. So when you are lacking in sleep, those cannabinoids are at an all-time low when they drew blood on on humans. When your cannabinoids are at your highest is when you are fully rested, or when females are giving birth. Crazy enough, like the body secretes like DMT and a bunch of cannabinoids to try to kill the pain. I know.
Maybe I should get pregnant.
You should get pregnant.
There are there are easier ways to get DMT, but I mean, if you want to go through it, that'd be a cool podcast episode. You guys could stream it live or something.
Mimosa trees have DMT in them, so it's easy enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an amazing thing. But so we have a lot of research starting to come out, and we're actually Rescue One is taking part in a study. I don't know if I'm allowed to say the university. They're two prominent universities.
Yeah.
It's gonna be out this year, and they're gonna be published studies that are peer reviewed. So, but it's specifically on our CBD.
That's cool.
It's
That's great.
insane. I've been working on it for 2 years, and I'm just I have no background in business or in academia, and somehow I landed in a spot where I'm running a business and I'm involved in a published medical study. But hey, fake it till you make it, you know?
Hey, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. The standards with recreational drug use among first responders has always been very odd to me. Like, you know, a lot of people use cannabis products regularly, and a lot of people use alcohol products regularly. And cannabis not only is so stigmatized, but it's also like the primary thing that's going to get you in trouble with your job. You could use it 2 months ago, or 2 weeks ago, when you were on vacation for a significant amount of time. You come back, you still have those metabolites, and it's an issue. What actually happened to me one morning is we get a call, we come back, and our bay window is broken. And come to find out, the guy that was relieving us had gotten so drunk that he decided to drive to the station. It was locked because we weren't there. So he broke the bay window and climbed in and passed out in the living room. And services, I mean, some of them do, but most of them don't give a shit. They're like, as long as you're sober by the time your shift starts.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. There's actual departments of which I'm not going to say I did or did not work for or have a close working relationship with. But they still run the whole, you can have one beer on shift every 6 hours, which is hilarious to me.
What?
Yeah, it's still a thing. Like they have, again, not going to go
That's insane.
airing it out, but they still have vending machines that are out of service that 100% you unlock the side and flip it open, and you can go pull a beer out and go slam it shut, and you can have 4 beers on shift.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that's not an issue. That's not an issue. But if you had any type of cannabis days prior, weeks prior, you're fired. Your whole thing's done.
And I think, first of all, that's fucking crazy. But, I think right now we're starting to hit a tipping point, and this is just from me being out there quite a bit. If I were to put it in age ranges, I would say that most of the people that still have an issue with all of this are a few people that are younger on the job, but most of them are administrative positions. And then even if you are in an administrative position and you are pro cannabis or just neutral to it, you're handcuffed to the fact that it's still federally illegal. And that's kind of the last obstacle. So descheduling is going to be a game changer. And if people, so I pay very close attention to state by state what's happening with cannabis laws and how they relate to first responders anyway. And what happened in New York last year blew my mind. If you guys don't know, FDNY and even Chicago Fire allowed marijuana use by stopping THC testing. And it happened all of a sudden after the union noted that there's a clause in the Supreme Court that basically says it's discrimination if you have if your state has recreational marijuana, but you prohibit firefighters from using it from either hiring practices or disciplinary practices.
Wow.
And
I'm trying to think of.
They walked into
there was a place.
The attorney general for the state, notified the fire chief, like effective immediately, you have to stop testing for marijuana, and you can't even appeal it. Like this is already decided at the Supreme Court level. So I mean,
Florida's
overnight,
Florida's got the. Yeah, Florida has the recreation on the ballot. Yeah,
it's on the ballot.
It might have been the one you were talking about, but I do remember recently, like a job application for EMS, and on the job application it said we don't drug test for marijuana or for THC, and that might have been locally, but
Yeah.
That happened recently.
Yep.
Yeah.
You'll see it more and more, but it's not worth the headache, because while it is technically federally illegal, the Drug-Free Workplace Act, which every chief, freaks out about when they say, like, listen, we can't, even if I wanted to, we can't have it, because the Drug-Free Workplace Act, the DWFA, says we're not allowed to allow you guys to use cannabis. But Gordon Graham, this guy famous in the fire service, like lawyer, and runs the company Lexipol, he has lawyers that write for him. And there's an article on Lexipol with a former fire chief who's now a lawyer and a cannabis lawyer, that wrote an article about the DWFA, and it says, if you are not, the DWFA is to prohibit you from using drugs and alcohol on duty. So there's a gross misunderstanding of what this thing actually is. As an employer, you cannot legislate what people do off duty. You just can't. Alcohol is legal, but you can't stop people from using it off duty, even though it's not allowed on duty. That's all they're trying to say, is you have to have a drug-free workplace, not a drug-free home place. It does not affect federal funding whatsoever. You can't miss out on grants because you don't have a policy in place. Now, drug testing after somebody gets into an accident and all this other stuff with DOT, sure, I get that complication, but there are plenty of fire departments that allow this and have navigated those waters. It's clear that, the attorneys at some city hall have figured that this is okay. I mean, it's not impossible to do. So it's just a matter of time. I think nobody wants to be first, and then it's going to start coming around where everybody's kind of figuring it out. And we're in a weird time right now because we're in the in-between. But I go to FDIC every year. 30,000 firefighters pass my booth, at one point or another. And I talk to a not insignificant amount of them. I talk to a good amount. And the support from them compared to the first year I went, it grows every year. I mean, it's noticeable, and people are very, very much open to it. Before, people would like side eye you, scoff at it, like I'm killing the job, It's funny, and now it's not that case anymore, and I think it's very much appreciated as something, as if nothing else, people are neutral towards it. Like, hey, it's not for me, but I don't really care. It's not really gonna affect the job.
Yeah, we're in the midst of a big generational shift in this career as well. As it starts to mature, and as these 65-year-old, 75-year-old people are starting to retire, and you have these younger people that have similar experiences to us come into those positions. They went to high school with probably dozens of people that they knew personally that used cannabis products, and they're like, it was, if anything, it wasn't worse than the guys that were drinking alcohol all the time. So why are we going to stigmatize that?
Yeah. But then also, like you said too, like there's no issue with people that have things like prescription benzos. Mm-hmm. Yep. You can have that in your system. People have anxiety.
Prescription opiates.
Prescription opiates. Yeah. Like I know for a fact that I've seen my coworkers take their prescribed medication that is a controlled substance that if I had in my system, I'm fired. But you have a script for it, and you can not only take it, but you can take it while on shift and still operate in the same fashion as me. Yeah. Which is, I think, is hilarious. And 100%, like, say what you want, but I mean, if you have your coworkers hopped up on, and I won't say hopped up on, but I'm saying like you have them they are under an influence of a controlled substance like that while operating county vehicles and performing pre-hospital medicine. That's, if I did that, I'm screwed. So to see the strange separation currently, which is thankfully shifting, between, recreational or medicinal marijuana, off shift that is not going to impede your performance at your job. You're completely scolded for it. You're scoffed, and, you're told, I know the stigma behind it. They're like, you're just going to make everyone, you know, hippies. Everyone's going to be high. They're going to be coming into work, you know, smelling like, you know, a shitty smoked out van.
Yeah.
And you're like, that's not, that's not what's happening.
Yeah,
I'm not freebasing before I get on the engine.
Yeah.
Like I'm just,
I would prefer them to come into shift seeing double vision and smelling like a stale bar.
I would rather have them come in still drunk from the night before, and you're like, bah, it's fine.
Yeah, well, if you drink after midnight, it's not from the night before.
That's true. Yeah, there you go. Isn't it funny too that, you know, we don't look as a fire service, and I guess more societally too, but we don't look at the problem with alcohol and just take it to the extreme like we take it with marijuana. You know, we look at people that use alcohol and we're like, it's just a social thing. We don't look at somebody that drinks alcohol and say, apply the stigma of them being a traditional alcoholic to the point where their life is completely ruined. They can't get out of bed. All they can do is drink all day. Their finances are in ruin. Their relationships are in ruin. We don't think that is the stigma because it hasn't been pushed on us. It's more of a social norm. But on the opposite side, you know, they assume everyone who uses THC is immediately going to go to the extreme, become couch locked, total hippie, can't get anything done.
Yeah.
I mean, there are physicians that use marijuana. There are lawyers. There are billionaires. There's every single demographic that
vice presidents
you could do, bottom to top, left to right, that basically just uses it as the same way they would use alcohol. And there's no, you know, there's no other simple way to put it other than it's just another supplement that people take. And I mean, sometimes it gets lumped in as a drug, but I would consider, you know, alcohol just much or more of a drug than marijuana. And the fact that it's even Schedule 1 is crazy because I don't even know how that's legal. You know, Schedule 1 is defined as something that has no medicinal benefit. I'm like, it's in, a lot of people don't know, but it's actually in two different prescription medications in the United States called Drobenol and Sativex. They're two pill form. I believe it's pill form. One might be a gel, and it's just THC. You know, and they give it to people with multiple sclerosis. Their like muscles are all spasmed up, and it relaxes their contractions, so they can like keep their arms straight and stuff. It's like that's been around for years, and it's a prescribed drug regulated through the DEA. You're like, it's in the name. It's a prescription, and somehow it's still Schedule 1. But I also know that it's kind of not our fault as a generation. You know, like we've had this beat into our heads since, I mean, our generation was DARE, right? Like I was born in 88, you know,
dude,
going into, I'm a late 1900s guy, if you want to, you know, say it like that. But going into school, like DARE education, you know, it was like, if you smoke weed, you're gonna end up in a gutter, you know. It's like, it's clearly not the case anymore, but that's just the train that kept rolling. So I think it's kind of opened up a little bit more as far as like the understanding of it, but there's no way we're just going to like shut it off quickly. I like to try to just be open with it. I know we don't really have anything to do with cannabis other than that CBD is technically made from a cannabis plant because hemp is cannabis sativa, but it's a loose relationship. But I just appreciate the fact that, you know, cannabinoids are cannabinoids. CBD is a cannabinoid, just like THC. It's just CBD doesn't make you feel high. And it does have some effects that are much better than THC, like with inflammation. It is far and away better for inflammation than THC is. But it doesn't do a good job with pain relief. THC does a great job with pain relief. It directly affects pain receptors. CBD might reduce pain from inflammation, but it's not going to like take away pain like THC does. So there's like a push and a pull there. There's always going to be a medicinal reason for both, if that makes sense.
Sure.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. The legal status of marijuana also, I personally would contribute. So I've had two friends die of narcotic use, and one of them was recently. And their narcotic use began because access to marijuana was strictly in the black market, you know, the underground. And the reason they got introduced to narcotics is because the people they were buying marijuana from were the same people selling narcotics. And, you know, it's like, hey, you already got this. You want to try this? So it's, when you put it underground, it's indirectly killing people as well.
Yeah.
I think so.
And going back to what you were saying too, you know, coming off of the prescription pain medication that you had, a lot of these people are stuck. A lot of people get stuck in that rut of, I'm prescribed this because I have some sort of inflammatory injury.
Right.
And we immediately, as a society, just immediately plug right to, you know, pain medication. You know, I'm from Florida, man. You know, it's the pill mill capital of the world. We all know how that went down. Like, and now we can see, I mean, we can directly see nationwide the effects of it. But and we've just neglected a huge, you know, it's because we've stigmatized it for so long. We're so far behind. They're like, well, you know, it doesn't really have this much use and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, yet. It's just because you don't know it. Like, you haven't spent the time because we've put it in this little box of, if you take anything that's remotely related to this, you are going to, it's a gateway drug. Just like they said in Dare, you're going to start with this and you're going to jump straight to heroin. And now that's your life. Like, and that's it. And we've just done the opposite. And we have moved past that. And now we're actually just giving people heroin. And we're missing such a huge medical opportunity to be able to treat this inflammation and things like that. And, you know, instead of being like, hey, why don't you try taking CBD to help regulate your sleep? No, we're not going to do that. We're going to put you on Ambien, which is like,
you're going to literally set yourself on fire and go back to sleep.
Yeah, the kissing cousins of Quaaludes. And you're going to lose your mind. Like, you're going to accidentally sleep a little bit past your Ambien, and then you're going to start seeing the shadow man in the corner. When, like, we could have just been addressing this, you know, with far more natural stuff.
I literally had a burn patient that took an Ambien, fell asleep, woke up, decided he was going to light an incense and set his comforter on fire. And went back to sleep. And he, like, 50% full thickness burns.
It's
he slept right through it.
Crazy stuff.
But that's the thing that I think we should really hone in on is, like, I don't, you know, I'm not against traditional medicine. You know, I think there's a time and a place for everything. You know, if I took CBD for my foot surgery, I wouldn't have lasted a day, you know, because the amount of pain that was from that is far superior to, like, anything I was going to take. I think they gave me a nerve block, you know, that thankfully lasted 2 days. It was only supposed to last like 12 hours, but they gave me a nerve block on a popliteal. So from the knee down, I didn't even know I had a leg. I was fine. But I mean, the amount of pain was crazy, guys. It was bad. So, like, I needed something heavy, but, you know, why do we have to do that for everything? You know, like, the same thing with sleep issues. Sleep issues, aside from, there are people that have true insomnia, that it's like a true, and it's a catch-all, but it's a true diagnosed, like, issue with either your brain hormones, your circadian rhythm, that can't be addressed with traditional stuff, you know. But I would venture to say that a ton of people have issues with sleep because of the way we live today, you know, the way we affect our melatonin with looking at screens past, you know, sunset hours, the stress level we put on ourselves, the 24-hour cycle that people live by now, you know, like, there's no evolutionary reason why our body has to stay up that long. And that's why the fire service is so unhealthy as a profession, because of that. And you know, I'm totally cool doing it. I'm gonna do 30 years hopefully, and I'll run busy trucks.
Yeah.
I like it, but I just want to recognize that problem so I can handle it off duty. But you know, when we as a culture, as a society, as a fire department go and say, hey, I have a problem with sleep, you know, they immediately just run straight to a sledgehammer. And I would love to see it just addressed a little bit more common sense, you know, common sense wise, just to try to approach some of the underlying issues that are low hanging fruit to resolve them. And you know, if it's so funny too that I've had that conversation with people very often where, you know, they're very dismissive of natural remedies, if you want to call it that, right? And they immediately run to prescription medication. I'm like, look, I don't understand why, you know, your idea that this medication, call it THC, can help you relax, and you're very dismissive of it. And you know, you want to call somebody a hippie or whatever else, but you're willing to, you know, hit your frontal lobe with a fucking hammer, you know, to be able to go to sleep instead.
Yeah.
You know, like what's the point?
And those opiates, to an extent, are you know, they could be lumped under a natural remedy because they're derived from opium poppies.
Yeah. I
like
mean,
it's plant-based.
That is plant-based, you know, that's true.
Yeah.
So
pretty good.
So as far as your products go, what can you tell us about your actual product line itself?
Yeah. We have tinctures and atopical, and the tinctures, you know, we recently kind of split up the tinctures into two categories. One is daytime use and one is nighttime use. And the nighttime, we call it at a service. Super proud of that. I have to give credit to firefighter in Orange County, California. Her name's Ryan Carlisle, and she's an Olympian. She's a former Olympian for the U.S. female rugby team, and
wow,
she's a fucking beast. But she came up with the name Out of Service. She's like one of our affiliates. You know, she's like an ambassador for us. And I was telling her about how we were coming up with this you know, formula. And I was like, it's going to be like a daytime and a nighttime version. And she goes, nighttime version, like Out of Service. And I was like, I'm stealing that. I was like, I'll tell everybody who came up with it, but I'm stealing that immediately.
That's mine.
Yeah, so we call it Out of Service, and it's the perfect formula for it because so typically CBD comes anywhere between like, I don't know, 10 and 50 milligrams per serving. That's kind of like average. We put 66 milligrams per serving in this, and then we put a bunch of terpenes in it. Like if you guys know, or any of your listeners know about some of the terpenes, myrcene is the most prominent one, and myrcene has a sedative effect. It's found in plants. It's in cannabis a lot, and a lot of these terpenes are taken from cannabis. We took it from, I had it extracted from other plants like mangoes and hops, so that I don't have to worry about the potential for getting delta 9 THC out of it. You know, it's kind of just a cleaner way to do it. So we added that back into it. Instead of extracting all of it from a cannabis plant, I isolated THC from a cannabis plant, and then we added back all these terpenes that have sedative effects like myrcene and linalool and pinene. And so pinene's really minor, but those other ones have this like kind of like feel good, relaxing feeling. And the high dose of CBD is better for sleep. So you shouldn't take anything less than 25 milligrams for sleep. When people started using it often, you'd have to take 2 of our droppers. So we doubled the dose of our standard tincture, but we only increased the price by like $10. So we really upped it a lot and made it super affordable. So that's our out of service. The daytime one is an unflavored, a lemon, and a mint. And what's really cool about those is we flavor the tinctures with terpenes. So there's no artificial flavoring in them. The lemon is flavored with limonene. It's the terpene that's extracted from lemons, and the same thing with the mint. So all of the products are made in-house. We contract with a lab to extract the CBD down to that 0 parts per billion mark, which is we're extremely proud of that. Nobody ever extracts the powder down to that, so the raw ingredient to start with, we extract down to 0.000% THC. Then when they ship it to us, we control everything from there so that I can know that when my team makes a batch, that batch is made, bottle number 1 to bottle number 1000 is the same batch. So we test the product when the isolate is made. Yeah. We test it after we bottle everything. And it's tested once during manufacturing. So it gets tested 3 times before we ship it out to people. And this way, one, we can ensure there's enough CBD in it. We talked about the gummies earlier where like you take one and nothing happens and you take another one. So we have a plus or minus 5% goal that we aim for when we're mixing a batch, and we don't want it to be more or less than 5% of what's on the label. So, I still have to do my fireman math, but we try to, when you have really, really pure CBD like that, it's easier to measure, because there's no filler in it. So we lab test 3 times. We have the tinctures that are daytime and nighttime, and then our topical version is it's an amazing formula. It's mostly natural products. We do have to have like some binders in there to keep it stable. It's an alcohol based topical, so it soaks into the skin. But so you have to have like a binder in there so it all stays together. But everything else is like a lot of arnica, menthol. There's peppermint. There's some of those other essential oils that have like cooling effect. And then we put 500 milligrams of CBD in that thing. So like when you put it on your skin, it's soaking through that soft tissue to bring CBD to the local area. Because again, it's just an anti-inflammatory. Yeah. I mean, there's all these wild claims and all this shit that does, but that's really the magic of that one.
Yeah.
Dude, we do jujitsu, so nice. I feel like I need like a bath of it. Like I just jump in like a cold plunge of it, be like deflaminate.
I like that. Deflaminate. I might have to use that. We're gonna deflaminate.
Dude, that's a good product name.
Oh shit.
The deflaminator.
So I might have to steal that. I'll give you guys credit. Maybe we'll talk royalties after this. Like, deflamination.
These fucking idiots.
No man, that's good. I like it. Don't sell yourself short.
One of the issues I run into with jujitsu is I end up just so profoundly sore, just from head to toe, fatigue and muscle soreness, and there are a lot of nights I don't sleep at all. So I'm taking a anti-inflammatory regimen of ibuprofen, starting with a prescription level dose, and then doing like a more standard dose every 4 to 6 hours, depending on how sore I am, just to get through the night and sleep.
Yeah,
so, I'm gonna send you guys some stuff.
Guy I worked, dude. Yeah,
that would be awesome.
Definitely.
I worked with a guy up in Michigan. I don't care because he was just an absolute turd. Dude, I'd work with him and he was so terrible. He was such a garbage, just human. But Terrell, fuck you. I don't care. Just out there. Shit, fuck that guy. But dude, he would sip ZzzQuil. He's like, I don't sleep. And he would just go grab a bottle of ZzzQuil and he's just,
wow.
Dude, he's got to probably have hundreds of milligrams of Benadryl in him. And like, so waking him up for a call is like, you had to get Rosk on him just to get his ass in the truck. I'm like, wake up. Good. Wake the fuck up. And he's like, whoa. Dude, yeah, that's
it's
insane.
It's a weird thing, man. What people are willing to resort to instead of just trying, something else. Be like, oh, I'm not taking that shit. I'd rather just sip ZzzQuil.
Yeah.
Like, all right, man. Hey, more power to you.
Yeah. I'm like, all right, do whatever you want.
I can tell you to live your life. Yeah. I want to enjoy retirement one day. But I am serious. I'm going to send you guys both stuff. I'll get you an out of service. I'll get you a topical, awesome. And then I'd get you feeling right. But for muscle soreness, it is pretty legit.
I'd love to try.
Yeah, we've screwed around with this formula.
I don't like taking ibuprofen.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Ibuprofen, it's a nice like in between, right? You're like, okay, well, I don't want to have to. You're recovering from a broken bone. You're in a cast. Like, I don't want to take Oxy or Vicodin. I'm just going to take some ibuprofen. It's a nice in between, but if you have to take it every day, man, that shit will wreck your kidneys and your
up.
liver, and it's not good like on the long-term schedule for sure.
It's hard on your GI. So I try
Right.
and I don't take it often, but there are days where it's just like, it's the only way to not be
Of course.
miserable.
No, you still got to work, you still got to function and shit. I get it. Yeah, absolutely. That's part of the thing.
The one thing you were talking about too with sleep cycle, I don't want to keep you forever, but there's a guy we're actually going to have on. He does a lot of health assessments with fire departments and stuff like that, like physical assessments, overall health assessments and stuff. And he was working with a big, I'm not going to out them, a big metro, a very large metro fire department, right? Very busy, they stay cooking. And they ended up calling him in and he got a contract because they were saying on average, and he's worked with physicians, but on average, firefighters are so unhealthy and they've gone for so long with sleep deprivation and just overall poor health levels that they were dying within, I think, an average of 3 years post-retirement.
Yeah.
They're like, we're only paying out like 3 to 5 years of pension for these people because they've spent 25 years, 30 years of being awake.
Yeah.
And then they go and they haven't regulated their sleep cycle on their days off. You can't, it's, they drink themselves or take prescription medication to try to get the normal night's sleep. And you're just not hitting those REM cycles. You're just unconscious. Like you're just not there.
Waiting with your eyes closed.
Yeah. Yes. You're awake with your eyes closed.
Waiting.
Or waiting. Yeah. You're waiting with your eyes closed. Absolutely. Yeah. And they're like, why is everyone dying? And they're like, it's because one, you run them into the dirt, one, and two, there's no recovery. Yeah. Like so fortunately we switched. I know a lot of Florida's 24/48. We switched to 24/72s last year. And that one day alone it
completely changes this job.
It's a completely different job.
I'm on that schedule.
Completely different because
It's unbelievably good.
It's unbelievable.
It's so
unbelievable.
good.
I'm an admin nerd right now.
I'm a firm believer that
9 to 5, but my department has that schedule.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That I'm a firm believer in the fact that your recovery, because everyone knows, like if you're in this job, even if you have a slow night, you have a no hitter, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. You're not asleep. Well, you're not asleep at the station.
That's a paramedic, one of the first guys I ever worked with. He told me, he said, you never sleep at an ambulance station. Mm-hmm. Said you're just waiting with your eyes closed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's a great way to put it.
It doesn't. Yeah. And then the next day, the entire next day is you recovering. And then the entire day before you go in on the 24/48 is just mentally preparing yourself for another shift
to go back in.
Yeah. Every day you're either
on these shifts
just coming off or about to go on every day.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that extra day alone is so helpful with that sleep cycle. And then taking something like that,
right.
I try everything I can. Cause I got 2 little kids that
man.
They're like, hey, it's 4 a.m. Wake the fuck up. Yeah. It's time to go.
Go time.
I'm like, stop.
Oh shit.
Stop. Yeah. And so like, I'm like, anything I can do to sleep, and to have them sleep, it's essential. Cause like you said, you're going to go to your station and you're going to wait. You're going to wait with your eyes closed. Any little creak, you're like, call. Yeah. Nope, no call. And then you're just barely back asleep. There's no way to describe it unless you've been in it.
Yeah.
Like no one will understand it.
It's weird. Like when I'm at home, especially now that we're on the 24/72 schedule, I can sleep through anything. It doesn't bother me at all. But even still now, when we're at the stations, I could be dead asleep and he says, hey, Anders. And I'm like, yeah, what's up? Like I'm awake immediately.
Dude, I can hear him squeak a fart out from the room next door.
I'm really like sleeping too.
Squeak about it.
Is this it? No.
Yeah. I'll say this, like I think it's really important for us to make the delineation of taking care of ourselves and still wanting to be good at the job. I think a lot of guys and girls out there think that because I'm trying to advocate for how unhealthy the job is, that I'm saying I can't do the job or that they can't do the job. And I've gotten into fights over that. I'm like, listen to me. I purposely bid busy trucks. I worked at stations for years where 3 to 5 after midnight was just kind of standard. Okay. I'm not saying don't do the job. I'm saying you have 48, 72 hours off, right? Take care of your shit off duty. That's all I'm saying. Just keep working the busy. Like, but why wouldn't you want to continue to be able to work? Wouldn't you rather, if you love the job that much, wouldn't you rather be wanting to do it for longer and healthier and then be around for your kids when you retire? Like you're right. I think that stat was from a few years ago, but I think it was like 5 years after retirement was the average national age of death after retirement. And you're like,
which is
so
it's insane.
It sucks. It sucks. But when you think about how unhealthy we are, it makes sense. And I'm just saying, I just want you guys to just be smart about your decisions. We're in a new age now where people can be all in on the job and still take care of yourself. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. When I got in, which is just 10 years ago, there's this whole stigma that if you're not grinding, you're not a good paramedic.
You don't get any street cred.
So you got it. If you're not suffering, you're garbage. And one of the biggest hurdles for me in my treatment style is people thought I was a bad paramedic just because I didn't do everything the protocol book told me to do. And it's like, if it's not necessary, then you shouldn't be doing it.
That's what makes a wise paramedic, for sure. You have to know when to not do something. Yeah. For me, that was hard.
Yeah. Both my parents were paramedics. Nice. So, I got a lot of the wisdom from them.
Yeah. It's hard to know when not to do something. Everybody wants to crike. Everybody wants to tube. Everybody, wants to see all the trauma and all the shit, but it's hard to like rein it in, especially when you're like newer, and you just want experience. But, there's something about experience that is a great teacher, but that doesn't make you good at it. One of the guys down here, Bill Gustin, his father was a captain in the Chicago area on the fire department. He's like, I know some of the most experienced firemen in the world, and some of them are dumb shits. That experience does not equal skill. You still got to be good.
No, not at all.
You could have. Do you have 20 years of experience, or do you have like 1 year of experience 20 times? Did you actually learn anything? And I've seen that too. So it's a combination of things, but I think that's still around. You still got to be like getting the shit kicked out of you every day to get street cred. Yeah. And so I think if you want to do that, that's great. It's just like be mindful of what you're doing to yourself and just be wise about all the stuff you're doing off duty. Don't just immediately come home and start freaking pounding bang energy and then drinking your face off, and it's like that shit catches up to you.
Don't look at our energy drinks right here.
Hey,
these are props.
I have
this is the worst recreational drug I've ever found. It's terrible.
I had a very strong love-hate relationship with bang energy. I get it. I get it 100%. But, listen, I try to limit my caffeine, right? But there are days where, especially running a business, man, and like, I also run a youth program. I run the cadet program for the fire department. And so I got a full-time job. I have a full-time business, and I run a youth program. Like, there are some days, man, where I'm not going to get to my stuff if I don't freaking pop a Celsius or a bang. But, it's just not a habit, before it was a habit. So no, I don't, I can't, nobody's perfect, man. Like, everything in moderation. That's all.
Yeah. Well, dude, I appreciate your time, man. Thank you for coming on. Thank you for sharing the product. I definitely am a huge advocate for it.
I appreciate you guys, man. It was fun. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely, man. We'll make sure we do it again sometime. So, but yeah, thanks, man. Thanks for coming on. We'll wrap this up, and I'll shoot you a message here, and we'll get some work on getting some goodies or something like that.
Yeah.
So,
let us. Can we buy some of your shirts?
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah, I'd love to have one of those.
I got these, the Black Sheep Battalion.
Yeah,
man,
we
for
should
sure.
Put one up on the wall.
Dude, I'm down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll put one up here.
Fuck yeah, that'd be great.
Sweet.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right, buddy. Well, I appreciate it, man. I'll talk to you soon.
Of course, man. You guys take care.